Travelling to away games has never been easier, especially with Rocket Mobile.
Unlimited data, unlimited everything in the UK. When you leave the UK, it's 20 gig of roaming data. Life is very easy.
£16 a month, no hassle.
How you doing,
You're doing all right? And this is what you get in Europe.
Hello. Turn the yellows.
Oh, no.
Thank you so much. Leave you the run.
Welcome back to AFTV. I'm here with Tosin. We've just seen Arsenal put in a really good performance away from home in the Champions League, going to Milan and beating them convincingly 3-1. Tosin, your initial thoughts on the game?
Great result and cements our status as Champions League favourites.
Yeah, it is. Before the game, we were saying initially, well, I was saying I would have taken a draw, given that the fact that the manager had made several changes, and obviously we've got our eyes on Sunday. The way the game played out, probably played out a little bit different to how I expected. It was a lot more open than I thought. I was expecting a more cagier game. What about you?
Nah, when I looked at that lineup, specifically that midfield, I knew it'd be an open game. I knew we'd get chances. I knew there'd be a good amount of positive, progressive play through the middle, because that midfield is not too dissimilar from the midfield we played when Ødegaard was injured. And I thought our performances were a lot better before he came into the team, and then he picked it up. So I expected it to be an open game. I didn't expect us to be as sloppy as we were defensively, silly turnovers, but I was pleased with what I saw offensively from the team.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there were a few turnovers, there were a few defensive errors, but like you said, it made for a great game. Let's talk about who I think, probably you think as well, man of the match, Gabriel Jesus.
Oh, he was brilliant. He finally had the finishing to match his movement. I think his movement is really, he's a handful. Yeah. He's never static. He's always trying to do something. And I thought that goal, the goal when Timber snatches it, I think that was just reward for his industry. And even the second goal, I was like, wow, like that's kind of like a poacher goal, you know. So interesting that somehow balls are able to go into this striker and he's able to score goals. But it was a good performance, and it gives Arteta a headache ahead of Sunday.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I was going to ask you about that. So, Gabriel Jesus, 2 goals tonight. Victor Gyökeres comes on later. He scores a screamer, really good goal. So the obvious question, my man, is who starts Arsenal this week against United?
Well, Jesus should start based on his performance, but we know Arteta's going to play Gyökeres. We know it.
Who should start for you?
Jesus.
Why is that?
He's looked better just in general, not just this game, but he's looked better, and he scored 2 goals. Like, you can't ignore that. Going away to the San Siro, being given an opportunity to start, and he scores. Come on, you can't ignore that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with that. I mean, we were saying on the watch along that him scoring those 2 goals puts him in pole position. But as I said, Gyökeres comes off the bench. He's not scored a goal in open play now for a few games. But wow, that was a hell of a strike.
That was a good strike. I mean, it reminded me of Gyökeres of Sporting. Like, yes. Lots of acres of space to run into, bullies the centre-back and gets a good shot off. So, yeah, it was good to see that. Hopefully we can see more of that. So maybe that's what Arteta just needs to do, start him as a sub more than a starter.
Yes, and encourage. Anyone else stood out for you tonight?
Mascara looked different gravy today. He was amazing. Or should I say, we're in Italy, different spaghetti. He looked amazing. Mascara looked good. Saliba looked good. That's about it. Eze had bright moments, but then it kind of faded off.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Eze, because there's been a lot of chat about Eze coming into this game. We were all saying on the watch along that he needs a performance. In the first half, I thought he was a little bit off it, but he was showing signs that he was getting better, and then he got taken off. To me, when he came off, he looked very disappointed. He said a few words under his breath. What did you make of his overall performance?
Yeah, I think overall he was average. I think he started brightly, then he faded. But I felt like he was kind of starting to warm up to the game. He had that shot with his left foot where he probably should do better. And I think if he scores that, he probably doesn't get taken off. But Arteta was looking at the way the game was, looking at the big space in midfield. Let me sacrifice the luxury guy that is actually losing the ball a lot, that lost the ball a lot the first half. So sad. But again, Eze needs to do a lot more. We paid big money for him, and we expect a lot from him because he's a quality player. But I don't think he's done anywhere near enough to force Arteta to say, I need to start. So
yeah, I would imagine that come the weekend, Ødegaard will probably come back into the team. But looking at the logistics, so we're top of the Premier League, we're top of the Champions League, but I would say, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion, that we seem to be performing better in the Champions League games. And if you agree with that, why do you think that's the case?
Teams don't do the nonsense that they do in the Premier League. I think teams in the Champions League, even the lower teams, lower ranked teams, they actually come and try to win the game. They come out and think, okay, cool, we want to assert ourselves. And I think it suits Arsenal. I've been saying it since last season. Arsenal are one of the best teams in Champions League, and I would not be surprised if this team makes it to the final. I wouldn't even be surprised if Arsenal win the Champions League. We got to the semi-final with with who were we playing in defence? With Mourinho up top. We got to the Champions League semi-finals and we played with no Partey in the first leg. Could have been a different story if he played. So I think teams don't low block us, and I think it just suits us more. If you let us play, we will kill you, and that's what we've done. Atletico held it, Bayern held it, Inter held it. I'm looking at the Champions League. Arsenal are the team to beat.
Yeah. Well said, man. I agree with everything you said there.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks.